All right. Let me just check real quick that the volume is working smoothly. Everybody that I haven't been able to, do a lot of streaming lately over the past couple of weeks. I prefer to do them at nighttime, but everybody has their own, this own situations going on, so not all of us are fortunate enough to, be at a computer screen, where we can, literally do a live stream whenever we want. You know what I'm saying? Like some of these other dudes on there, like say for instance, let me give you an example, right? Like I might show up to Praise I Am's channel or to this one guy's channel and I'll say hi in the chat, then everybody be like, well, hey man, why don't you hop on right now? Like, hey, look, this new guy here would like to have a conversation. Like, why don't you join right now? And then, sometimes like they'll say, oh, well, he just doesn't want to join, or he's running from the conversation. But it's like, dude, I can join when I am available to join, but I can't join whenever you just ask randomly out of the blue, right? Like, I can't join at the drop of a hat, as the saying goes, right? Like I'm gonna drop everything I'm doing and everything I have planned just to join a random live stream out of the blue that nobody, previously asked me to join. Like I'll give you an example, right? Like say a month ago, maybe month and a half ago, Praise I Am, he did a live stream about me responding to a video I did. And they were like, "Oh, well, look, he ain't here, so that means he must not want to talk." But literally, he set the stream up 1 hour before he went live. It's like, so you expect me to be able to know that I should stop by and I have like literally a 1 hour notice, and really not even that because YouTube doesn't even send out notifications half the time to like half of your subscriptions. You know what I'm saying? So, that's just unreasonable to think that way, right? But I'm saying that, unlike a lot of these individuals, they seem to have like an endless amount of free time on their hands, right? Where they're able to just sit at home, in front of a computer all day and, talk their bullshit or whatever they're doing. But I'm not able to do that. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, look, I do what I can with what I got, and that's how I look at it, right? That's the way I look at it. So, I had maybe an hour and a half of time on my hands now. So I figured I would go ahead and do a little bit of a live stream because I've been planning on doing one on my page for a while and on Jay's page for a while, but for whatever reason, I haven't been able to get around to it because a lot of stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? But I do what I can with what I got. Let's see. I'll say hi to some people in chat. How you doing, John? Breaking the Matrix. How you doing? King James only. Hey, how you doing, man? Manny. Hey, he said, the home of the spiritual KO. Yeah, yeah, that's our slogan around here, man. Right, the home of the spiritual knockout. Hope you're doing well, Manny. Defending the truth. Yeah, shalom. But yeah, it's crazy the shit that's going on out here, man. Like, let me give you an example, right? Like, with all the world events put to the side, right? Because there's too much going on with that, to even get into, right, in just an hour-long stream, right? But the other day, I was at a local store, right? And I was just going in. I had to get like, a drink and like a laundry basket, and some soap, something like that. And I overheard a conversation between the two employees and one of the customers there, and they were talking about the yabs, from 2020. I got to use code language, but everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? Minor Shrek might call them roosters, right, or yabs. or juices, right? You pick your wording. But they were talking about him and they were saying, but yeah, yeah, something weird's going on with that. And then the one guy was like, well, yeah, I know somebody that had to, get their kidney removed, after getting these roosters, and all that. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh shit, some of these people out here, these regular average, hoodlums, right? Because this show, what's the word I'm looking for? This shop, excuse me, this shop that I went to was in the hood, right? So these people, these hoodlums, and poor folks, which I fit in well there. Um, but these people don't got a clue what's going on, is what I'm trying to say, right? These are just average, regular Americans that know nothing and just are 9 to 5 workers, right? So they were sitting there saying, well, yeah, yeah, something definitely is off, with these, jump shots and all that, or, whatever you want to call them. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh shit, these people are starting to wake up, right? They're starting to see through the wool that's been pulled over their eyes by the world elites. They're starting to wake up and see that something's not right. And these people, if you were to, question them on, other things like, September 11th for, you know, um, the Boston event, or the 2012 thing, which can't be spoken about on YouTube, and stuff like that. They, first of all, they wouldn't even have a clue about some of those events at all, because a lot of them have bad memory. So if you named a year and asked them what was the big event that happened in such and such year, a lot of them wouldn't even know. Just keeping it 100, right? I'm just keeping it real. But I was thinking to myself, it's like, damn, some of these average, regular 9 to 5 workers and, regular simps, in this society, they're starting to wake up and see that something's not right with the world that we've all been told growing up, right? With this system that we live in. People are starting to realize that something's not right with all of this. And I was thinking about chiming in, but you know what? Hey, the Bible says a wise man would hold his tongue, right? So I decided not to get into the conversation, which, to be fair, they already changed to a different subject by the time I got up to the counter anyway. But, I was just listening to them in the background, talk about it, which, this is old news, right? All of us already figured this out years ago. The stuff, in 2020 was clearly, something was clearly up with that. And any logical, reasonable person, could easily conclude that, without much of a problem at all, right? It's so easy to see, but again, a lot of people are just, gullible and ignorant. You know what I find funny? There's one dude over the ISUPK, which stands for Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. They also host the radio show Across the Line Radio by Captain Cesariak and Shatazar, um, which I called into their show once, but that's a different conversation for another time there. But I found it funny because their leader, shit, what's the leader of this guy? I think his name's Johanna or something like that, right? Johanna. And it turns out that Tazariak said on the interview that their leader actually took the juice, right? Took the gab and the roosters that came along with it for his own personal safety. Like we said again, his own leader is probably in like his late 60s by the look of him, right? Looks like he's in his late 60s. But the dude went out and took these yabs, these juices, for his own personal health and safety. Oh man. When I heard that, I was, laughing my ass off when I heard that. It's like, wow. So this supposed holy leader, right, that's supposedly leading the true One West camp or whatnot, he literally went out and took the devil's magic juice. I mean, come on. This is asinine right here. This is just crazy, man. But again, this is what's going on, man. Let's hit some. Let's hit some comments here. John said, "I'm stacking supplies, laying low." Yeah, that's a cool way to do it, man. Like say for instance, right when you said laying low in the prepping community, that's called being a gray man, right? In a prepper community, there's something called being a gray man. And what that means is, like, say, for instance, if I go out into the public, like if I go to Walmart or to downtown, nothing about me stands out. Like, you won't look at me and see anything special about me. Like, if anybody looks at me, nobody would have any clue that I have 6 months worth of food at home and, 300 packs of, baby wipes and 500 trash bags and enough stuff to survive a damn, zombie apocalypse, right? Or, World War III or something like that. Like nobody would look at me and say, well, that guy must be a prepper or, he has supplies because I fit in with everybody, right? When I go into the hood, I wear, trash clothing to fit in with everybody else. So I go to Walmart, I fit in with the people of Walmart. If anybody remember those memes back from like 2010, right? So again, I'm a gray man, right? I fit in with the crowd, right? There's nothing about me that stands out. I mean, hell, if you question me, I'll knock your fucking socks off with my knowledge, right? The Bible talks about that though I be rude in speech, I am not in knowledge, right? The Bible says, though I might be rude in speech, I am not in my knowledge. Right. So again, if they were to question me about something like about, truth subjects or about the Bible, I would, I would metaphorically speaking, I would make them code blue. Right. I would hey, just like Deacon said in that one rap song, right? I would shock the world. Right. I would shock the world. I would leave their mouths wide, just like he said in that one rap song, right? Out of, disbelief that this guy had this much knowledge, up in his dome. But anyway, right, enough with the jokes. But that's how it would be, right? Again, I fit in with everybody, but then if you question me as far as knowledge, I'll teach them more than what they could have ever learned in a theological seminary school, or as the Horde calls it, a theological cemetery school, right? Oh my God, these people out here, dummies walking around, thinking they're educated because they went to, a theological seminary school, right? Theological cemetery school, you know, out here thinking that they're like, the cream of the crop, right? As Shrek used to say. I mean, come on, this is hilarious. Let's see. Hey, what's up, Joe? How you doing? John said, "I'm afraid people won't wake up until bank accounts are empty with bodies littering the streets." Yeah, man, for some people that is what it's gonna take for some people to, to wake up actually. As weird as that sounds, that's really what it's gonna take for some people out here until they start to realize, you know what, maybe the government's not gonna come to my aid. Because a lot of the people out here, matter of fact, I've been pondering upon doing a video in my studio background. I was going to call it a rude awakening coming, right? And that's truly what these people have out here, really all over the world, but truly first and foremost in the United States, because everybody knows Americans are like the most, retarded and people that have no clue how to survive. Like say for instance, man, there is studies that they've been done, right? Like how the U.S. Army, they're able to do like what's the word I'm saying? Like war games. Like say for instance, with the whole thing with China and Taiwan, they were able to like do some simulations to see how the war would turn up. They've also done simulations to see what would happen if a EMP strikes the United States, right? So they did simulations on that to see what would happen over the course of like a year, 2 years, 5 years, and they concluded that if a EMP was to hit the United States, literally half, not even half, 90%, you can look this up, 90% of the people in the country would be dead in the first 6 months to the first year. The first 6 months to the first 12 months. Within that amount of time, 90% of the population would not be around anymore due to, of course, starvation, dehydration, and all of the other things in between. Again, an EMP is a very serious thing, man. But you know what I find funny though? Like if you went out and you ask people, like, do you know what an EMP is? Like literally 90% of the people you come across would have no idea what that is. Like they would think of that's like some type of like math equation or something like that. Or something to do with money, right? A lot of them would have no idea what a EMP actually is. But yeah, John, that's what it's going to take a lot of people out here. A lot of people are not going to wake up until it's too late. Hell, like say for instance, right? Like, preppers, because I've been watching them since I was like 12 years old, right? A lot of these individuals on YouTube, and a lot of them are still around even today, except for the ones that might have passed away or, whatever. Um, they've been on there warning people for years and years and years that, hey, look, you should have some stuff put away for, as they would say, a rainy day, right? Or for when society collapses due to all the events happening, on a daily basis. There's going to come a point when the government's not going to come to your aid. And we see countless examples of this happening around the world where, countries or civilizations get devastated by maybe a natural disaster or attack or something like that, and the government can't come to everybody's aid. They might be able to help a certain percentage of people, but they certainly can't help everybody. So it comes a point when you got to try to be self-reliant on your own. Of course, in the modern day and age, there's no such thing as being totally off grid. That's basically doesn't exist, at least in the United States. You can't 100% separate yourself from and be off the grid, right? You can't 100% do that, at least here in this country. But you can absolutely step towards that direction, right? By starting to, in some places, grow your own food, purify some water, have some farmland, hell, own your property if you can. And again, there's a lot of things you can do to start, getting yourself separated. But of course, you totally can't do it 100%. But hey, you can take a step in the right direction. Hey, how you doing, Nick? Defending the Truth said, "Yep, they told everybody to take the juice, a General Johanna." Yeah, 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 man. I mean, think about that. Like even GMS and Sakari, they have the smarts. What again? I Out of all the Israelite camps, the camps that I give the most respect to would be GMS and Sakari. But of course, you get on them for going off on certain things. Like, say for instance, I had people tell me, "Oh, well, you're a scoffer for calling the camps out." It's like, well, dummy, it's like you don't listen to what's being said. First of all, I've followed these camps longer than you've probably knew you were an Israelite for. I followed some of these camps for like 8 years, right? So I know some of the background information that you might not know. But again, I've always said that I give respect to the men who've taught me much of what I know, but that certainly doesn't mean that they're like, 100% correct. We know that's not true. Like, I'll give you an example, right? Again, I'm not hating on Tahar or nothing like that, but I'm saying like say for instance, he did a video back in like 2016 where he said, "Well, look, this is the ISS space footage. Well, that just proves the flat Earth." It's like, dude, you do realize that that's not real, right? You do realize that that's all fakery. It's like, you guys really didn't figure that out? I mean, come on, that's stupid at this point. I mean, everybody knows that that's not real. Like, they'll even tell you at this, oh, yeah, this is just, it's not real. It's just, a depiction of what, could look like. Like, even Robert Simmons, the man who put together the blue marble, I believe it was from 2002. If you look up his interview that he did about the painting, he said, "Well, yeah, it is Photoshop, but it has to be, basically like took some information from the satellites and I stitched them all together and I added some colors, what I thought it would look like." And he said it is photoshopped, but it has to be. Right. So again, they're literally saying to you, the people who put these things together, that yeah, it's not truly real. It's just, some information we stitched together and this was the end result, of all of that. And then again, the gullible masses just accept it without question, and that's stupid, right? It's just stupid. Like, why would you trust the authority just because they tell you something? It's like, couldn't they lie to you? It's like, seriously, like is this so hard to figure out that people in authority lie to their subjects for their own personal gain? Like, say for instance, if I told the average American, well, the Germans in World War II, they lied to their population, right? They'll be like, oh yeah, I can believe that. But then in the next breath, they'll be like, well, yeah, the U.S. government, yeah, they're not, hiding too much from us. They're honest with their people. Again, that's how a lot of dummies think out here, man. And it's truly a detestable view, but that's prideful ignorance at its finest. Hey, how you doing, LOP? Hope you're doing well. Hey, how you doing, DJ Spin? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where T-Mog is, man. He's still out there, right? Minus Reg's still out there. I believe so. Let me grab a drink real quick. Hell, you might have to talk to his right hand man, Galapagos. Right, the guy that has what's that cat? IDL David as his thumbnail picture. Shit, is David still alive or did he drop dead weeks ago? I truly don't know at this point, man. And again, I'm not even being funny. I'm being dead serious here. Is David still walking among us, or did his ass drop dead from a stroke? Because I know he been complaining about health issues and shit. At least the last time I spoke to that dude. So again, I'm not even being mean. I'm just asking, is that dude still alive? Because I haven't seen him around. And that dude used to be all up in the in the discords. Shit, but now you got, agents like or I should say actors, inside joke. You got actors like a ghost in there. Where they got professional actors like a ghost up in the Discord chat. Let's see. Yeah, I can agree with you at that, defending truth, right? Both Sakari and GMS, as I said, I do give the camps respect because I learned a lot from them, but they certainly go off with certain things they teach, absolutely. Such as the globe model. That's certainly not correct. Certainly not true. And, Sakari, I called into one of their shows once and I was asking them about it, and they were clueless. Like, literally, what's this dude? Gorilla Hebrew, right? Alazar calls himself the chief high priest. He was clueless about the idea. I literally got it on tape so they couldn't take it down. But he was like, "Oh, well, what's this whole thing about? Like, what do they believe?" And then he's like, "Well, why didn't nobody fall off the edge?" It's like, well, dummy, who said that there was an edge? And then they're like, "Oh, well, there's no Antarctic wall." It's like, well, we can prove that there is. It's like, again, if you're gonna try to prove something wrong, you should at least know what you're talking about, right? Like, say, for instance, in order to debunk some of the Christian core beliefs, you have to first understand the Christian core belief. In order to debunk Islam or Hinduism, you first have to know what they believe. It's just that simple. So, in order to quote unquote debunk flat Earth, you have to know what they believe. Like, again, I don't get why that is like so hard for people to grasp. I just don't get it. Now, DJ, I've been around before, Shrek. Shrek came in on YouTube, and I want to say 2018, right? Shrek came on YouTube in like 2018, but I've been around since early 2016. I've been around, and I didn't even know Shrek until 2018. Like, say maybe the 6th month of 2018, something like that. But I've been around before him, a few years actually. In fact, we used to have a couple buddies back in 2016. We had, let's see, we had I myself. I went by age back then, but that's a little inside joke. Only a couple people know what that means. So me, Ridge Napper, Kyle, which none of you know who that is except for one of you, that being Luke Matt. Um, Luke Mack was back then. He was watching our stuff. Of course, we had Rock upon him back then. Um, and the Loving Christian, which today he calls himself the King Lion. Um, and there could be one more other person I might be forgetting, but basically that was all of us back then. We used to do streams, hangouts. Back in 2016. And some of those are still on YouTube. I'm not going to tell you where you can find them, but some of those very early streams. In fact, my very first live stream is still on YouTube, because I went on with Kyle. But I'll leave that up to you to find. I'm not gonna put the link out there. But yeah, I've been doing these things for a long, long time. Matter of fact, we used to do streams on something called I'll bear with me for a second. It was Google Hangouts, right? Google Hangouts. I don't even do people even use that anymore? I don't even know if the app's still around, Google Hangouts. But it was like a messaging board, kind of similar to Discord, but this was before Discord was around, right? So we used to use that in order to, like, send links and, talk behind the scenes, and then, they could send a link to do an open discussion, on YouTube live from the StreamYard. That's what we used to use in like 2016. Hey, look, Galapagos is here. How you doing, Galapagos? I see you still have David as your thumbnail picture, man. Let me see. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, James, but I don't think that's what happened. Yeah, he's still walking around somewhere. Yo, the minor Shrek mystery is compelling, but that um is not compared to the Izzy Pop 15 mystery. But only Ridge Napper probably gets that joke. Man, that's years before all of you, watch my stuff. But that's a story for another day. Let's see. Yeah, Galapagos said confirmed actor. LOP said, well, we shouted out Galapagos at the same exact moment Galapagos commented, LOL. Yeah, it's funny, man. DJ Spin said, crisis actor confirmed. Oh, and that's a whole nother thing I wanted to rant about, man. I was watching a couple of David Weiss's streams that he did. For those that don't know, David Weiss, he's like one of the most popular flat earth people. You can look him up on YouTube. He was actually in the Netflix documentary. I believe it's called Beyond the Curve or something like that. It was pretty good. And he also was in a couple YouTube documentaries. But he's like one of the heads of the movement. But he actually wasn't around back when I first looked into it. Because again, I've looked into the flat Earth in 2016, right? So nobody even talked about that dude. So maybe he was like on a different website or something like that. But he wasn't really doing any of that on YouTube back when I first looked into it, right? And back then, you could easily find, FE content on YouTube, but it's been shadow banned since like 2018 because, too many people were looking into it. In fact, at one point, Flat Earth had more search results than Donald Trump did. Believe that or not, it's true. Right at one point, I believe it was 2016 or 2018 or 2017, something like that. That Flat Earth got more search results and more people looking up that term on the internet than Donald Trump's name got looked up. That's a fact. And then after that point, they shadow banned it, where it's difficult to get information about it. In fact, if you put the word flat Earth in your video, there will pop up a like a Wikipedia link underneath your video and like the description. Well, it leads you to like Wikipedia and tells you that it's, a debunked theory from, hundreds of years ago and all that, just to get people to not look into it at all, because they'll see, oh, well, Wikipedia says, that it's been debunked, a long time ago. And, well, that's all I need to know. Like there's one dumbass, I think this cat called himself Wolverine or something like that. It was over from the black community. um, Shit, I forget the name of that channel, but I went on there maybe a month back for a conversation on there, and there was a dude on there calls himself Wolverine, and he said, "Well, hey, look, I believe you are showing ignorance, right? ETT, you are showing white ignorance at its finest by questioning the government. But I, on the other hand, I believe they went to the moon because they said it. They went to the moon. Like, think about how retarded that is, and that guy's like somehow like." He's like somehow a truther, but yeah, he admits, well, hey, look, only evidence that I need that they went is because they said it they went. And anybody who questions them, you're showing ignorance. I mean, come on, you couldn't convince me that I was not talking to a buffoon at that point, right? A baboon. I mean, come on, it's just amazing to me, But again, a lot of people are just gullible and stupid. And he's a great example of that, Wolverine. Galapagos said David's probably in hiding from the protesters and BHI. Yeah, maybe. LP said Hassad is Deacon's right hand man. Hey, I call him Facade, right? He is a facade, right? D Coon and his sidekick Facade. That's what I call them, man. Defending the truth said, they're dumb. I believe he's talking about Sakari here. He said they're dumb, and the ancient Hebrew Earth model was flat with a firmament and dome. Yeah, exactly. Matter of fact, not only was it the ancient Hebrews, but almost every ancient culture, by a vast majority, let's just say 90%, but it's most likely higher than that, their model of the world, they believe that it was some type of flat plane. Some of them believe crazy things, like some might have believed that it was on like the back of an animal or something like that, like Indian belief or something like that. But all of the ancient religions and cultures, by a vast majority, believe that the world they lived on was a flat plane that if you go far enough, you'll reach like a barrier that you can't pass. That's what, by a vast majority, they all believe. And again, this is a fact. I mean, this can't be disputed. Even in the school system, they teach that's what people used to believe. Hundreds, thousands of years ago, people all over the world held that belief. So again, even the school system will tell you the truth on that. But again, a lot of people just don't really look into what they talk about. DJ Spence said Mike still goes on panels and rants. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Matter of fact, DJ, did you know that Sakari did a conversation with him? I believe Hassad, right? Fassad did a conversation with him on forget the channel name, but I think it was The Machine Lies or something like that. I think the channel was named The Machine Lies, something like that. And I saw it on Sakari's channel. They re-uploaded it, but that was funny to see those two have a conversation. Let's see. Galapagos said, waiting for Perry Green to make his own camp and compete with the Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, that's funny, man. That that's pretty funny. Yeah, hey, look, man, Perry Green, again, he's teaching like the most easiest form of Christianity that you'll ever see, right? Just believe in baby Jesus and you can rob Walmart every day if you want, but hey, look, as long as you confess you believe that a white man lived and died and rose again, you can do anything you want and you're guaranteed to go to heaven. But don't believe guys like ETT or GMS that teach about having righteous works, because those guys are leading you to hell. Like literally, these guys believe that by teaching people righteousness, that we're leading people away from God. Like, think about how weird that is. Like, that is so retarded, it makes no sense. Like, how the hell is teaching people righteousness leading people away from God? Matter of fact, Jack Smack, right? I call him Jack Crack. But Jack Smack 77 is the name of this guy's channel. He's like one of these popular leaders in the free grace community. He believes and said that if you're teaching people to not sin anymore, you are leading people away from Christ. And then he said, if you teach people to obey Christ, then you are teaching people not to believe on Christ. Like, think about how retarded that is. It's like, wait, what? How the hell can me teaching people to obey Christ somehow be me leading people away from what Christ taught? As aren't there places in the scriptures where Christ talks about obeying his words? Like John 14:15, it says, if you love me, keep my commandments. And what commandments did he teach? Well, he was teaching the commandments and laws from the Old Testament, right? He said Matthew 5, verse, what is it, 17 and 19? Hey, one jot or one tittle will in no wise pass from the law till all is fulfilled. Then he said, you know, anybody who teaches men to break even the very least of God's laws, they're going to be least in the kingdom. But those who teach to keep the law, they're going to be great in God's kingdom. So he said that one thing, not that one thing at all, whether great or small, will pass from the law until all things are fulfilled. And that hasn't happened yet. Because all things are being fulfilled, that's talking about when this earth receives its judgment and then the kingdom of heaven is established on the earth. That hasn't happened yet. So all things haven't been fulfilled. But that's a whole different lesson for another time. But again, Christ said, I believe that's Matthew, I want to say the 7th chapter. He said that you would know them by their fruits, right? A righteous tree cannot bring forth corrupt fruit and vice versa. You would know them by their fruits. And what does the fruit represent? Well, obviously, the tree represents people, and then the fruit represents works, right? And their actions. So he was clearly saying in a metaphor that you would know a person by their works, you would know them by how they act. So again, we can look at these people who claim to be teachers or apostles, and we can find them to be liars. Matter of fact, one of my personal favorites, I believe that's Revelation chapter 2. It might be verse 10, but it's Revelation chapter 2. It says, we have tried them who say they are apostles and are not, and we have found them to be liars. Right? Matter of fact, let me even look that verse up real quick. I'll quote it directly from it for you. Give me 1 second. All right, I found it. It was Revelation chapter 2 and verse 2. It says, I hope it doesn't cut me off here. Says, I know thy works and thy labor and thy patience, and how thou cannot bear. Right, if you want to read that yourself, Revelation chapter 2, verse 2. Right, but in a nutshell, it's saying we have tried those who said they are teachers or apostles, leaders in the church, and we have found them to be all liars. And that's how a lot of people out here that claim to be of Christ are, man, especially the leaders. We found a lot of these people to be liars. And Perry Green is a leading example of that. But not only him, countless other people like Praise I Am, Jack Smack 77. Um, again, the list could go on and on. Oh, Babble On, right? Jamie. Just to give a handful of examples, right? Ellen White, TG Jakes, call him Snakes. And again, anybody else you can, add to the list just about, man. We've tried these people and we found them to be liars. So what does it mean that we tried them? That means that we took the words that they were saying and we lined it up with the Bible and we found out that they actually are lying. And in some instances, it doesn't mean that they're lying. It could just be that they're deceived. Like, say, for instance, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 11, it says, "For God will send them a strong delusion that they should believe a lie." Wait a second. It doesn't say Satan's going to send them a delusion. It said God will send them a delusion. And wait a second. I thought Christianity says that God doesn't deceive. I thought Satan was the one who deceives, according to Christianity. But the Bible says that God's going to send some people a deception. So they're cut on that. Let me see. LOP said Flat Earth first blew up on YouTube around 2015. Yes, that is correct. In 2015, that's the first time that the term flat Earth, ever appeared on the internet. And hell, I can attest to that because literally, let's see, how old was I in 2015? I believe it was 13 years old in 2015, right? 13 in 2015. So before that, I never heard anybody use the term flat Earth before 2015. But then during 2015, I, start see that stuff pop up in the recommended section on YouTube, or famous YouTubers, trying to make fun of the idea. But that all happened in 2015 or 2016. So those 2 years are like the main starting point of when people started to talk about that. But literally never beforehand did you hear anybody use that term. LP said like Gonzo was the right hand man and co-host of Primal Man. Yeah, yeah. Man, we exposed that coon. Right, Gonzo. Remember that time I found Gonzo beans? Remember that picture, LOB? Gonzo beans. Right, dude make his own canned beans, right? Be his new business. Rick in the Matrix asked, what do you think about Mark Passio? Um, I've looked at a few of his things before, but I don't really follow much of what he says. Again, there are so many names that I've looked into. I wouldn't know the ins and outs of about each person and what they believe and whatnot. Is that dude that talks about like lizard people and shit like that? I could be getting him mistaken with somebody else, but I'm sure I've looked at a few of his stuff before. Let me get a drink real quick. DJ Spin said, yeah, bro, they are all idiots. I feel back at home with all of you guys. Yeah, yeah, man. It's which to be fair, I mean, it's really not hard to see, who's, telling the truth to the people and who's lying to the people. Like, Perry, Jack Crack, Praise I Am, Babble On, and all the other names you could throw in there. It's easy to see through them. I mean, like shit, it's easier to see through them than it is to see through a damn Ziploc bag. Right? It's easier to see through the bullshit that they're on there, spreading to the people. Man, The nonsense that they spread, it spreads like a damn wildfire, like the damn Canadian wildfire that was spreading like 10 months ago, right? Spreads faster than that, it seems. At least in my opinion. Right, it seems like everybody's all of a sudden like a free gracer now, right? Everybody's all of a sudden, a free gracer after these couple people started talking about it, right? It's really weird, but that's just just what it is now, right? Everybody wants to believe in that easy peasy, free gift to just get to heaven by just saying you believe that a gay man lived and died, and that's it. But, like, literally, there's people out there who believe that Christ was gay himself. Seriously. There's literally people who believe that. I'm not gonna put any names out there, but I've seen people say that. They literally think that Christ was, rainbow community plus. Like, he was okay with all of that. It's like, wow. Like, Nick was showing me, shout out to Nick if he's listening. But he was showing me on a recent stream we did together, there was a pastor, a Rainbow Plus pastor, who literally was saying that the example, I believe that's John 11, where Christ rose Lazarus from the tomb, right, when he died. When it said that Lazarus came out, this guy was saying, well, look, when it says Lazarus came out, that was actually him like coming out of the closet, right? In modern day terms, when a person says that they're gay, they call it coming out of the closet, right? So when it said that Lazarus came out, he said, "Well, look, that means that Lazarus came out as like he was attracted to males." It's like, no, dummy. It's like if you read the context, it's just talking about him coming out of the tomb when Christ rose him from the dead. I mean, again, this is why I say that there are some people on YouTube that have no business trying to teach the Bible. They'll literally take simple text and make like a whole doctrine out of it when it literally, on face value, in context, proves them wrong. Like, again, it's so remarkable to me, but again, like, some people just can't see it. It's just, it's really funny if you think about it. It's retarded. It's just absolutely retarded. LLP said all things are filled in 70 AD ETT. He's making fun of Primal Man. Yeah, yeah. Think about how weird that is, right? His dumbass out here in 2024. The world's literally the worst it's ever been, right? We're, certainly many miles past the danger of the Cuban Missile Crisis and, um the world wars before this, we're many miles in danger above those points today. But everybody was like, nothing's real anymore. On one hand, you got people who will pretend like, well, everything on the news is not real. Like literally, David Weiss will be like, hey, look, anything on the news, I just reject altogether. Like seriously, if they saw like a headline for like a local robbery, like say for instance, if somebody robbed a local 7-Eleven and stole like $200, and then in the background they'll see like a cereal box with the number 33 on it, they'll be like, look, that's a hidden message that this was all staged and they're all crisis actors. It's like, wow, seriously? So these dummies, if they literally just look on the news and see that somebody like robbed a local store, they'll be like, well, all of that is fake just to distract people. Well, to distract people from what exactly? Because if everything's fake, well, what are they distracting people from then? If there's no real news happening, if there's no wars actually happening, because it's all apparently fake according to these dummies, it's like, well, what are they distracting people from if none of this is real? You ask them that, and like nobody has any clue. It's remarkable to me. But again, this is how stupid people are today. Again, like don't get me wrong. I understand, of course, that there's conspiracies and hidden things from the public. Absolutely, it would be stupid to believe otherwise. But to just sit there and be willfully ignorant and pretend, oh well, everything's fake. Nothing's ever real. I mean, that's just as equally ignorant and stupid to believe that. Again, that's retarded. It's absolutely retarded to pretend, everything is not real. It's like, okay, well, like that would be as stupid as somebody saying, like, say for instance, if somebody came to their door, like if they live in a apartment, say they're on like the 7th floor or 10th floor, of a 20-story building, and somebody came to their door and said, "Hey, there's a fire. We all got to get out." They'll be like, that's just a scare tactic, just trying to trick me. And then they go back to bed, and it turns out they burned to death because they didn't listen to the warning. That's like a good equivalence to some of these people, man. Right? They'll get these clear warning signs that there's stuff going on, and they'll be like, nothing's real. It's all just a scare tactic. Like how these dummies think. Like David Weiss will be like, nukes don't exist. It's all scare tactic. It's like, well, shit, you're gonna find out that they're real, man. Right? Once they hit a city near you, then what are you gonna be saying? It's like, again, some of these dummies are gonna learn the hard way, man. Like say for instance, right? Like we can correlate this back to the Bible. Like when Noah was building the ark, it literally was 100 years, 100 years that him and his sons were building the ark. And the people that passed by, they would mock him and be like, "Oh, well, where's the rain, right? Where's this water that you're building this ship from?" Because remember, back in those days, there was no such thing as rain, right? There was a mist that came up from the ground that watered all of the plant life, right? It talks about that in Genesis. So there was no such thing as stormy weather or, rainfall back then. That didn't exist until after the flood, right? Basically, when Noah entered the ark, that was basically the first time it ever rained on earth, if you read the story. So everybody was mocking him, making fun of him. Oh, it's never going to happen, right? You're just fear mongering. And then until one day that the rain started to fall, and then he entered the ark with his sons and their wives and all the animals. God sealed the door, and everybody else died to the rainfall and the flooding. That's the story, right? So again, it's a good equivalence of today. We're warning people, hey, look, bad times are coming. There's judgments happening around the world, and it's going to increase. And all these guys, it's not real, right? It's nothing to worry about. It's all, scare tactics to control people, right? There's no threat of World War III. Remember, all the governments of the world are all together. There's no threat of anything. Nothing ever happens. You guys are just scaring people. Again, they're going to say that and say that until something does happen one day. That's how it's going to be. A lot of these guys are going to learn the hard way, man. And that's a sad thing. No, we're warning people now because you have a chance to get right. Like, say, for instance, right? Like sinners have a chance to get right, right? They can turn from how they're living and actually, believe and follow after the righteous acts that Christ taught, before it's too late. But it's hard for us as teachers to do that because, look what we're up against. We have people out here that are telling people what they want to hear, such as, Perry Green or Jack Crack. Hey, you can live like the devil. Just say that you believe that a man died and rose again. And as long as you believe that, that's it. That's all you got to do, right? You can literally, be a Satanist. You can literally rob stores all you want. And as long as you just say a couple magic words, then you're good. Again, it's like, how do you compete against that? Because, that's what people want to hear. That's the most popular doctrine. That's the get into heaven free card, right? These guys are literally giving people a license to commit sin. That's basically what they're doing. People don't want to hear that you have to change your lifestyles to get to heaven. People don't want to hear that. They want to hear the easy lies, right? They don't want to hear the hard truths. They want to hear the easy lies. There's even memes about that I've seen. Let's see. Well, Primal Man deleted his whole channel. I didn't know about that. Yeah, I I didn't know about that, man. I know what's this cat? Elvin, right? The sidekick of Pastor William Bell. I know he uploaded that conversation that we did, right, about full preterism and 70 AD, all that. It's remarkable to me because there was even people in his comment section that were like, "Yeah, yeah, Elvin, you defended, full preterism very well in that debate." And then they were praising him for his breakdown. Like, think about how weird this is. Like, Elvin told me, "But hey, look, most people on Earth are actually righteous." It's like, well, most people on Earth are righteous. What the hell you mean most people are righteous? I mean, hell, in the Bible, it talks about it, like it was hard to find like one righteous person in a city or two righteous people. But you're telling me that like, oh, most people are righteous? I mean, so what the hell are you talking about? And then I ask him, and he's like, well, your boss at work is righteous because they give you a paycheck to work for them. So that proves they're righteous. I was thinking to myself, I was like, dummy, they have to pay you the money they owe you for working for them because that's the contract agreement. It's not that they're righteous. It's like, come on, that's it's so retarded. It makes no sense. Like, say for instance, like even the mafias and drug lords, they pay their servants that move the drugs, like the drug mules that move these substances across the country or across the world. They pay them to do that, right? So would you say that that's righteous then? Because they pay the drug mules to move these things around the world. So does that prove that they're doing a righteous thing? Well, of course not. But if you agree or not, well, then how could he use the argument and say, well, because your boss pays you, that proves they're righteous? I mean, it just shows you have no clue what's going on. Now, again, it's just so many idiots out here. It's just amazing to me, on this platform, man. And I'm gonna hit some comments here because I've been slacking. I'm up in chat, so I'm scrolling down. Yeah, you're right about the LOP. Babylon is a mumbling moron. Hey, Babylon does a whole lot of babbling, right? Jamie does a whole lot of babbling, right? Makes sense he called himself Babble On. Let's see. LOP said God has given them their left hand path script to play a role in the end times. Yeah, you're right, man. Again, as I quoted earlier, God deceives, right? So God has his right hand side and his left hand side, right? So God has people out there trying that he sent to deceive people and people that he sent to teach people the right way. And they're going to get sent to the people that he desires to run into them, right? And learn by them. God has all things under his control. It's not like how Christianity says, well, Satan's going around, trying to deceive everybody. And, he, on his own will, his own free will, quote unquote, he's doing all this. It's like, no, God's in control. No, even in the gospel, it speaks about how, a crow doesn't even fall from a tree, right? A raven doesn't fall from the tree. I believe it used the word sparrow, right? A sparrow doesn't fall from a tree without the Father knowing, right? So God knows everything that's going on down here, right? He knows all of it. He's in control of all of it. It's not like how churches teach that Satan's going behind God's back and, causing mischief around the world. That's like, nah, that's not true. That's nonsense. Let's see. Galapagos said, Mark Passio is a terrible actor, an ex Satanist. He admits it. And then he said, you learn more from a wet paper bag than watching a Mark Passio stream. Dude spends the first half hour talking about different ways to donate money. LOL. Hell, I can't comment on it because I never seen one of his streams before, so I couldn't comment on that. DJ said, the 6 to 12 hour streams y'all used to do saved me. Yeah, man. Hell, I remember those streams. If I could do them again, I would. But it's again, it's difficult right now to do what I do. You know what I'm saying? It's difficult right now for me to do the things I'm doing. So I do what I can with with what I got. But yeah, man, I get what you're saying. It's those were good streams. Sometimes I go back and listen to them. Sometimes. Yeah, that's good, LOP. Let me just grab a drink real quick. If anybody has any question or topic to bring up, you're welcome to put it in the chat. Probably only going to go for another 25 minutes, though. Let's see. Yeah, but going back to David Weiss, right? I was listening the other day to a couple of his live streams. Again, don't get me wrong, he's a pretty smart guy, but sometimes smart people can be wrong. Matter of fact, even in the Apocrypha, it says, great men are not always wise, neither did he age to understand judgment, right? So great men are not always wise, right? Smart men might not always do the most reasonable and smart things, right? It might not always say the most intelligent things. And there's many examples of that, right? But David's a good example. Might be a smart guy, but then he goes off on some things he says. Like he'll talk about how, oh, well, all the world wars are all staged. It's like, okay, well, it's like, so are you saying like they didn't happen, or like what do you people mean when you say that exactly? Like, are you even clear, or are you just like saying this stuff because you like heard on YouTube somebody said it and then you guys just repeat it without knowing? Or this whole thing about Tartaria, right? Which I laugh at that's a bullshit theory. And really, if you believe in Tartaria, you can't believe in the Bible then, because the whole Tartarian idea and World Fair, mud flood bullshit, they believe in a nutshell. And to be fair, I'm not an expert on the idea. I've just know a little bit because I've heard them talk about it over the past couple years, right? And basically, the idea behind it is like, well, before there used to live like ancient civilizations that, the buildings we have, like the White House and, the Pantheon and, the Capitol building and, stuff like that. It's all left over from them. All these buildings were like left over from them. And we as modern humans, we've only have been on Earth since like the 1800s, right? That's really like the whole idea in a nutshell, that the civilizations got wiped out with like a mud flood or whatever, and they left their buildings when they all got taken out, right? So and then they add in some bullshit with these churches and say, well, the churches with the pinnacle, the spiral, at the top of the churches, it was actually like some type of like electrical system they had. All that bullshit. It's like people are just trying to like make up nonsense at this point, man. It's retarded. It's like, obviously, how do you debunk this? It's very simple. The reason why there are some buildings that have like 20-foot doors or 20-foot windows is not because there were giant humans living there 300 years ago, but rather it's something called aesthetics, right? It's a aesthetic look. Look that word up, aesthetic, right? The word aesthetic or aesthetic look, it basically is just appealing to the eye, right? It looks appealing. Like, say, for instance, today they might get, pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a marble statue that's 20 foot tall to put up. Does that mean that the people walking around or the person that the statue is of, does that mean that he was actually 20 feet tall? No, it's just a artist's depiction of him for aesthetic looks, right? It makes him look appealing. So some of these buildings, they have like 20-foot doors on them, or, you know, um, certain designs. It's not that there were, advanced races using them, but rather it is more logical to assume that it was a aesthetic look to it. And we have hundreds, maybe even thousands of examples around the world of modern buildings that might be 100 years old, 150 years old, or maybe even made within the last 10 years that have oversized features to them, not because there's 20-foot tall humans or, using them, but rather regular sized people just find it aesthetically appealing. I mean, that totally debunks the whole theory right there. It's not that there were these massive ancient races walking around in the 1700s that built all these things like the White House, and then they all got wiped out and then we took over them as our own. It's like, no, It's we just built them that way because it's appealing to us as humans. Very simple. And again, I said, if you believe in the Tartarian theory, you can't believe in the Bible because according to the theory, we modern humans have only been here for 200 years, right? They say there was a great reset in the 1800s when the advanced races got all wiped out and then we got set up in their place. It's like, well, wait, then you can't believe in the Bible because that was set 2,000 years ago with modern day humans. Like the people in the Bible, they were like 6 foot tall. Sure, maybe there could have been some people that might have been taller than that. Sure, but the average person in the Bible was the size of a regular man today. Shit, in some instances, maybe even a little shorter. Now, there are instances in the Bible where there are big people, but that's, rare examples. Like, again, I'm not sitting here saying that giant humans never existed. That's not the topic I'm talking about. But I'm saying, to pretend that there were like ancient races that just ruled the whole world and then humans like us didn't exist at all. And then we just existed in the 1800s and then we took all their buildings over. That's just not true. I mean, that's just not logical to believe that. That's fairy tales. Um, let's see. Jay said Tartaria was a real country one time between Russia and Mongolia. Yeah, I don't deny that there could have been a country in the past named Tartaria. That's believable. Just like, say, for instance, a lot of countries around the world changed their names throughout time, but the Tartaria idea is not that it was a country that existed, but that's what they call like the world before us, right? Like they say that there was all advanced cities, like say for instance, they had electricity in the 1700s, right? That's at least according to the theory. And they say that some of these churches, like the pinnacles on them, the spirals at the top, had to do with conducting electricity, right? That idea is not totally not true. But I can agree that, sure, in the past, there could have been a country named Tartaria. That doesn't prove it. There were advanced civilizations that got wiped out with a mud flood and then they built everything and then we all just took it over. I mean, that just isn't true. That just doesn't make sense, at least in my opinion. But again, I think I'm putting compelling evidences to support my claims here. I'll defend. Yeah, that's a good point. He said, like the bug out saying Israel was in the USA now. LOL. Yeah, I've seen people say that actually. I've seen a couple people say that the true Israel, like not the people, right? Not it's not a conversation about who the Israelites are or are not, but they're saying like the real landmass of Israel was actually in America. I've seen people say that. It's like, that's not true, but again, a lot of people might just believe that because maybe there's like a city somewhere in America that they code named Israel or Little Israel. It's like you guys do know that there's literally hundreds of places in America called like Little Italy, Italy. What's the word I'm looking for? Italy. Having a hard time saying that. Um, or Little China, right? Little Rome, Little Egypt. Look it up. Look it up. There's literally hundreds of places with those names in America, whether it be the names of restaurants, cities, street names, stuff like that. The names used. Okay, just because a street might be named Little Israel, that doesn't now mean that the ancient Israel's in America. I mean, that's just stupid. Or just because there's a restaurant that has the name Jerusalem in the name, that doesn't mean that Jerusalem is now in the United States. I mean, come on, you think people would be smarter than this today. It's funny. Well, America in the Bible, there's a landmass called modern day Sodom and Egypt. Right? What is that? Revelation chapter 11, verse 8, where it said, saw their dead bodies lay in the street of that great city that is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Yeah, that's America there. Because it said spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. So America spiritually is Sodom and Egypt. Matter of fact, I went downtown just like 3 hours ago, and in the middle of the center, they were flying the pride flag. And then literally two churches were flying the pride flag. And then a couple local businesses, or like a bakery and a bookstore, were also flying the pride flag, right? Like literally within like 2 miles of each other. And if you go out further from that, you'll find like 25 more in the same city, right? So again, America is modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Modern Sodom and Gomorrah and Egypt, all of it combined. Yeah, that's interesting, Jay. I haven't looked into that, so I can't comment on that, but that's interesting. LP said, Og, the king of Bashan, hope I'm saying that right, in the Bible was the tallest person that was about 9 foot tall. Yeah, yeah, like as I said, I can agree that there were giant people at one point that walked the earth. That is true. There have been skeletal remains found around the world of humans that are 15 feet tall. But the Tartarian theory is about like the ancient structures, or really not ancient, the modern structures we have, such as the White House, the Pantheon, the Colosseum, the Capitol building, some of these churches we have, and stuff like that. They claim that these were like left by ancient giant races of people that we just took over them as our own. It's like, no, that's not true. I mean, literally, we have photographs that exist of some of these buildings being constructed. Well, maybe not the Colosseum, of course, because that's, thousands of years old. But if I'm not mistaken, we literally have depictions of the White House being, laid out or, constructed. Again, you can look up some of this information yourself. You can find information about these things. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was either the White House or the Capitol building. They actually found in like the wall there was like a little time capsule that was found in there from some of the workers that constructed it. Again, you might have to look that up, to fact check me on it. But I swear I've seen something like that a few years ago on YouTube. The news was covering that story. Yeah, yeah, I heard about that. Jay said there were Egyptian hieroglyphics found in the Grand Canyon in the Native American language. There were also Hebrew alphabetic, excuse me, alphabets found. Yeah, that's correct. The I've seen a show about that. I believe it's oh, what is that show called? America Unearthed, right? America Unearthed is the name of the show. They did an episode about the Grand Canyon and about the claim that like the Egyptians, were there at some point. Again, it was an interesting documentary they did about it. They say that the Egyptians at some point came there that might have had a cave where they, kept some of their, wealth in or whatnot that's, hidden somewhere in the canyon. Yeah, I've heard about it before. I've seen a few documentaries on it over the years. Um, but it's kind of like some of that lost treasure, right? It's myth that it's there, and legend that it's there, but it's never been found. But hell, it could still be there, right? Nobody knows, But again, it's an interesting, subject. Let me grab a drink real quick. Yeah, man, but a lot of these guys, they come up with just some stupid, outrageous theories. Like it's funny to me because like David, you would think that he's like a smart guy, and again, on some topics he's reasonably smart, but then on some they totally go off the deep end. Like I'll give you one example, right? Like I heard him recently talking about the whole Titan sub that imploded like 8 months ago or something like that. He was saying, "Oh, well, that was just a distraction to scare people." And then he said, "Well, why would anybody go on there? There's like no windows to even see the Titanic. It's just like a TV screen." It's like, no, if you actually look into it, there actually was a window at the front of the sub that people could look through and see the Titanic. Matter of fact, that's the whole attraction why they would even spend $250,000 a person to even go on the thing in the first place, so they could actually go down and see it with their own eyes through the porthole at the front of the sub. Again, like, he had no research into it. He just said, it's a distraction." He, like, saw the news story and said, it's not real. It's not real." Like, he did no research into it at all, you know what I'm saying? But again, it's like, if you're gonna say something's not real, you should actually know what you're talking about. Like, say, for instance, like, I can sit on here and say that Tartaria, why it might have been a country, the whole theory about, the buildings we have were left by advanced races. It's like, no, that's not true, because there's a whole factor of evidence against such a theory. And to pretend that, like, we humans only been here for 200 years, it's like, no, that's clearly not true. On face value, those are just not factual statements. I mean, again, it's easy to see, very easy. Um, Carol asked, who was the smallest man in the Bible? Um, I'm not sure if it actually says that, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. Yeah, I can't answer that question, because I don't see, like, say for instance, right? A lot of people in the Bible, it doesn't tell us how tall they were, right? Or how miniature they were. There's only a couple people where it tells us how their stature, right? As far as like their height, there's only a couple people that it mentions that. Like, say for instance, when we're talking about Christ when he was like 33 years old, we don't see how high he was, like what his height was. Was he 6 foot tall? Was he 6 foot 3? Was he 5 foot 9? It doesn't say that, so we would have to speculate on that. So who's the smallest person in the Bible? I would say that it doesn't tell us that, right? There's no example that we have of that, at least according to what I know now. Um, let's see. I mean, that could have been a city that existed, but I wouldn't say that it was like, advanced with, like, flying crafts and stuff like that people say. But, it could have been a city existed with that name. Maybe. That could be, that could be true. Again, there's a lot of, cities over the course of time that got lost to the ocean, right? There's a lot of like stone debris and, ancient cities, ancient ruins at the bottom of the waters that over the course of thousands of years or whatever been, consumed by the sea, right? Like, there's even like ancient Roman ports that were like by the oceans back then that, over the course of hundreds of years got swallowed by the ocean when the level of the ocean rose in the area, right? So now you have to go like dive down like 25, 30 feet in order to see the ancient remains of some cities, right? Or some port cities, right? You can find, a matter of fact, even on YouTube, you can find some of that, right? There's examples of Egyptian ports as well that were lost to the sea over time, right? Miniature cities. So again, I could agree that, there were some cities in the past that could have had names like Tartaria or Atlantis or stuff like that, but they weren't like some type of like advanced civilization living there. They were just regular humans that lived there that might have done some trading with other nations and then got lost to the sea over the course of time. That seems reasonable. Oh, I'll look into that. I've never heard of that individual. I'll look into it. But one thing for sure, there's a lot of people going around that are coming up with a lot of, nonsense theories, especially about the Bible, right? Especially about the Bible. Like the one dude I mentioned like 25 minutes ago, dude's on there saying, well, when Jesus told Lazarus to come out of the tomb, he was telling him to, like, come out as a rainbow person. It's like, wow. And there's idiots out there who believe that. It's like, come on, you can't be serious. It's just retarded. It makes no sense. Again, a lot of people have a problem reading the Bible in context, right? Again, that's a lot of people out here. They take things out of context, sometimes on purpose, right? They'll take things out of context on purpose to try to, spin a narrative. And again, a lot of them, it's not even on purpose, right? A lot of them just, got tricked or, did a little research and then, think that they know it all now, right? Like, I'll give you an example, right? Like, some people will sit there and tell you that there were no such thing as dinosaurs that ever roamed the earth. It's like, well, no, there were dinosaurs that roamed the earth. There's so many ways to prove there was, but there's a little deception going on, sure, such as the dinosaurs did walk the earth, but the deception is they didn't live 65 million years ago. They actually lived within the last couple of thousand years. That's the deception. The deception is not that they never existed, but the deception was they lied to you about when they lived. That's the part that was the deception. Just like they lied to us about the sun's distance from the earth, but they did not actually lie about the sun existing at all, right? Clearly. So that's the example of how they could lie about something, but just because they lied about it, it doesn't mean it's completely fake. It's the same thing with the dinosaurs. They might have told some lies here or there, sure, but that doesn't mean that the whole thing didn't exist at all. That would be just be retarded to believe that. Again, there's so many examples like around the world. We have ancient depictions as far as like artwork or stone carvings or ancient stories of knights fighting giant komodo dragons and stegosauruses or shit like that. There's even a rock in Jerusalem that showed a T-Rex biting the back of a horse. You can look it up on the internet, find what I'm talking about. What about the A Cambero figurines or the Inca stones, right? The Inca stones, that's a big one right there, right? It's like ancient stones that literally have dinosaurs carved into it and other animals that we know carved into them. And the fact is, well, wait a second. If these people never saw dinosaurs before, well, how the hell can they depict what they look like? Even better than how we can today. Like, I'll give an example. They found out that just recently that what is it, the sauropod dinosaur had like a I wouldn't call it a lump, but it's like a little part poking out on the top of its head or something like that. And they found it on the ancient rock. It's like, well, wait, well, how the hell did they know that then? If they didn't see it, they just saw the bones apparently. Like, how did they know that? Or other dinosaurs they found that were depicted better than how they show in the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park movies, right? Like, wait, how did the ancient people depict them better than how we do if they just saw the bones? It's like, again, something's not adding up here, right? There's something weird happening here. It's not adding up. I believe when I was talking about the sauropod, I believe they call it a frill. Right? I believe it's called a frill, just to clarify that. Let's see. Yeah, yeah, I saw that Galapagos. I saw that Jack Burton. Let's talk about him for a minute. Now, Jack Burton, for those that might say, well, that name rings a bell. Jack Burton used to join our live streams back when Mina Shreg used to be, around, right? Jack Burton used to stop by. Matter of fact, he was even getting on Mina Shreg, but like, well, you should treat ETT better, because he's a brother, you shouldn't, tell him he's wrong on anything. You should treat him better. And then, he went back and forth with Mina Shreg. Here we are 3 years later, and he comes on my comment board and says, "Well, ETT, you are not teaching people the Bible correctly because you're teaching people to do righteous acts. You know, you should be teaching people just believe in Jesus and then do what you want, because well, that's the true way." So I was like, "Well, wait, so me, can you explain this to me, Jack? So how is me teaching people to believe on Jesus first and foremost, and then two, obey what he says? How is that like? How am I adding that to the Bible?" And then they'll be like, "Well, you guys teaching repentance from sin, you are adding to the Bible." I was like, "Okay, well, why did Jesus say in John 5, verse 14, he told the man who he healed his blindness, he told him, go and don't sin again, lest the worst thing come upon you. Or the woman in John 8, when he told her to go and don't sin anymore. Why did he tell them to go and stop sinning? The word repent means to turn from doing something. So he literally told them to stop sinning. Why did he tell them to stop sinning? Both the blind man who he healed and the woman that they found in adultery. Why did he tell them to go and don't sin? If Christ has no problem with you just sinning, if you just believe in him. I mean, that's a knockout right there. That's a spiritual KO. Somebody called it Ambalam because Jack Crack and this other Jack figure, these guys got spiritually laid out. I mean, this is a knockout right there. Spiritual KO. But yeah, let me read the comment. He said, Jack Burton called you out, called you a Satanist for saying what the Bible says. LOL. These Christians hate the Bible. Yeah, and he's right. You know, these Christians out here, a lot of people are fake Christians, right? They say they believe, but they don't actually truly believe. Because hey, the Bible says, one of my personal favorites, right? What is that? First John chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. He that says he knows God, but keeps not his commandments is a liar, and the truth isn't in him. Right. So if you claim you know God, claim you know his son, but you don't do what he said, well, you're a liar and the truth isn't in you. Hey, guys saying that they don't ever sin. Hey, well, the Bible says, what is that? First John chapter 1, verse 8. If we say we have no sin, then we're a liar. Right. If you say you never have sin, right, like Perry, oh, I don't ever sin anymore. It's impossible for me to sin. Hey, the Bible says if you say you have no sin, then you're a liar. The truth isn't in you. And ETT didn't add that to the Bible. You can read it. First John chapter 1, verse 8. If we say we have no sin, then we're a liar. You know, so again, it's very easy to disprove these doctrines that certain people are saying. Like Jack Burton, that's a sad example, man, because he used to be a cool guy. But then over the course of a couple of years, he started to, I don't know if he listened to like Praise I Am, Jack Crack, or Perry Green. I don't know who he listened to, but he got pulled in the wrong direction. But hey, he used him as a cautionary tale, of how not to, of what not to believe, right? And how to stay away from false teachers, man. Because any of us could end up like him, and that's a scary thing, man. Hey, remember, as I've been quoting throughout this whole show, a Second Thessalonians 2:11, right? The Lord shall send them a strong delusion that they should believe a lie. I believe it's Job 12:16, where it says, "For the deceived and the deceiver are his." What is that? Job 12:16. The deceived and the deceiver are his. Right. So God has the deceived and the deceiver in his hand. When he turns it out his will. Jay said, can you do a full breakdown on reincarnation in the Bible right now? Sure, I can give you a couple of examples. Say, for instance, well, let's address this first, right? Hebrews chapter 7. What is that scripture? Was it Hebrews chapter 7, verse 28 or something like that? Let me even look that up real quick. Let me look it up real quick. Okay, I got it. I was right. Hebrews chapter 9:27. It was 9:27, excuse me. It says, for it's appointed unto men once to die, and then after this comes the judgment. So I see like Perry or other people go there and say, well, there's no reincarnation because it says it's appointed unto men once to die, and then the judgment comes. Well, how do we explain this? It's very simple. Second Ezra chapter 14, verse 35. For after death the judgment comes, well, we shall live again. So what it talks about in Hebrews 9:27, that's appointed unto man once to die, and then the judgment comes, is talking about in the physical flesh we're walking around in now. You die one time, your spirit departs from the body, the flesh decays back to the earth. So when you're brought back, you're not going to be in the same flesh and blood. That decayed and is no longer there. So yeah, in your physical body, you die one time. But then it doesn't mean that you can't come back in the future with a new body. So when it says it's appointed unto man once to die and then the judgment comes, that's talking about in your physical flesh and blood you're walking around in, you die one time, your spirit departs, goes back to God, as it says in Ecclesiastes 3:20 on down. And then in the future, God can send your spirit back again. Like I'll give you an example. In Daniel chapter 12, I believe it's verse 13, the angel told Daniel that he shall rest for a while, and then at the end of days he's going to stand in his lot again. Meaning what? He's going to rest a while. Rest means sleep. Right, when people die, they enter into a state of rest. Good example is Lazarus. If you read, um, what was that? If you read, what is it, John 11:11? Right, when Lazarus died, Christ said, he's taking a rest, and he's just napping, right, he's just sleeping. And then the apostles said, oh, well, just let him sleep for a little bit, we'll talk to him later. And Christ said, well, no, he's dead. So Christ used the same example of sleep to me to mean a person when they died. So Bible compares death to being asleep, right? But that's a whole lesson for another time. But again, reincarnation is very simple to understand. You die in your flesh, your body decays back to the earth, your spirit goes back to God, and then in the future you could be born back again on the earth in a brand new body, but it's the same soul, right? Same spirit. And I see that with John the Baptist. John the Baptist, he was Elijah, but he just had a new body. So that's why nobody knew him as Elijah, because he didn't look like him. He was a brand new person. He just had the same soul. And he doesn't know that he was, because the Bible says, I believe that's Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 11. It says, the former things are not remembered, right? You can't remember your past, right? So he didn't know that he was Elijah. So if people asked him, are you Elijah? He said, no. Well, that wasn't because he knew he was not Elijah. It was because he didn't know, right? He couldn't remember that he was, because that was hidden from him. Very simple. Defending Truth said, who's Jack Burton? It's a person that you wouldn't know, because we're going back like 3 years ago, right? I believe you only been subscribed to my page for like maybe a couple months, so you wouldn't know who we're talking about. This is just a guy who joined a couple of my older live streams. Um, but a couple other examples in the Bible. If you read, um, what is that? Revelation chapter 10, 11 on down, right? John the Baptist, John the Baptist. I mean John the Revelator. When he died on the island of Patmos, there's no record of him ever escaping from there. But the angel told him in Revelation chapter 10, 11 on down that, he's going to have to go preach before many kings and nations and rulers again. Well, wait, when did he go and do that? Because he died on that island, according to history. So when did he ever get a chance to go teach before many kings and nations and people again? Well, the answer would be, if he got reincarnated in the future, he would have a chance to go and preach before people again. Not in that lifetime back then. Another good one, Revelation 1, verse 7. He comes with clouds, and every eye will see him, even they who pierced him. When we read that, we understand it to mean the soldiers that pierced Christ's side, both when he was on the cross and when they, whipped him and, punished him before the crucifixion. They are going to see him when he returns again. Now, how would they see him if 2,000 years later? Well, they would see him because they're reincarnated again today as, new bodies, but same spirit. They wouldn't know who they were in the past, but they're just, in a brand new body, but the same soul as they used to have. Bear with me a second. Defending the Truth said, these These believe only guys sound gay as if. Yeah, you're right. These as they call themselves free gracers, right? All you got to do is just believe that, this guy died and rose again, and that's it, right? You just believe that, and well, you go to heaven. It's like, okay, that's not what the Bible teaches. Like, again, if God doesn't care what you do at all, well, why does the Bible say in what is it, Second Corinthians chapter 5 verse 10? It says, "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, and we're going to have to give an answer for the things we've done in our flesh, whether they're good or bad." Wait a second, we're going to have to give an answer for the things we've done in our flesh. Well, wait, well, why the hell are we going to have to give an answer for it? I thought God doesn't care about it as long as we believe. And then wait a second, it says we're all going to have to. And wait, I thought according to them, all means all. All, whenever they see the word all in the Bible, all, that means everybody, right? Everybody, that's what all means. But apparently, all of a sudden now, when it says all, now it doesn't matter, apparently. Right now, when it says we're all going to have to give an answer, now all of a sudden it no longer means everybody, right? So they like pick and choose what they want. It's amazing to me, but this is the hypocrisy. Let's see. Somebody's on here named Persian Cucumber. Hey, how you doing? You decide. That's a new face. Haven't seen that person on here before. Yeah, doing well. How you doing? Okay, Romans 12:1. Let me pull it up real quick. I'll check it out. Oh man, that's a good one. I'll read it. I hope it doesn't cut me off, but I'll read it. Romans chapter 12, verse 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present reasonable service. Excuse me. Yeah, that's a good scripture, Nick. That's a good one. And these free grace guys, just getting to heaven free guys, they don't hold that standard, right? No, they're not believing correctly. All right, bear. All right, sorry about that. I just had to get sun real quick. Yo, am I good now, Nick? Yeah, we'll hear. I had to go on mute for a minute. Sometimes when I pull up the Bible app, it cuts it off because I gotta switch the app I have open in order to to read it. So sometimes it cuts it off. Yeah, it's 3 o'clock already. Days went by quick. Let's see. DJ Spin said, "I'll be right back. Thanks CTT for a stream." Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, as I said, I stream whenever I can, but it's not always easy to do a live stream. It's you gotta find the time to do it. But I do what I can with what I got. That's the way I look at it, man. Yeah, but it's funny to me because a lot of these free gracers, man. I've done a couple of debates with these cats, right? Like, oh, what's this whole other one? Oh man, it's on tip of my tongue. Oh shit, I'm hoping it comes back to me in a minute. Oh, there it is. It's the Layman's Seminary. The Layman's Seminary is the name of the channel. Look it up. I went on their channel maybe like 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, something like that. We did like a 2 hour conversation with some of his flunkies on there about it, which I call his channel the Layman's Cemetery, right? That's the Layman's Cemetery over there. Matter of fact, hold on a second. Oh, for the memes, I gotta do this real quick. Hold on. Here, hold on. Yeah, Layman's Cemetery. Yeah, as I said, I went on there with those characters, and these guys are easy work. I mean, it's really not. It's very easy to beat these guys in a theological conversation. Now, again, all jokes aside, I could beat them any day in a conversation about the Bible with both my hands zip tied behind my back and a damn blindfold on, right? I mean, I could take the whole panel that easy. It's not difficult, right? It's very easy to do, right? They come with the most, lame and boring, arguments for why, teaching people to do righteous things is bad. And then on the other hand, them just saying, well, belief alone, that's it. It's like, okay. It's like, well, what about when Christ was teaching other things beside belief alone? Like, say, for instance, there's dummies in my comment board. Um, I think the one dude's on there, he calls himself like Christ is the only truth or something like that. And this guy's even done videos about me, which I've seen. But again, I don't have the time to keep going back and forth with some of these cats. Sometimes I watch the videos, just for good, entertaining laugh. But I don't got time to do a 2 hour response video. You know what I'm saying? But it's just funny to me. They'll be like, "Well, you guys are adding stuff to the gospel other than just belief." And then I ask them, "Well, what about parts of the Bible like Matthew 19?" Where Christ told the young man when he asked him, well, what do I have to do to have eternal life? Christ told him, hey, keep the law, right? Keep the commandments. I was like, wait a second, what? Isn't Christ adding to it now according to you? If I'm telling people, to follow what God said to, get eternal life and believe on his son, and then Christ said the same thing to believe on him and, keep the rules. It's like, well, how am I going off then if Christ said the same thing? And again, it's like a lot of these guys just can't comprehend like what you're saying, apparently. Again, it's very weird and strange, how some of these, dummies, think. It's very strange. But a lot of numbskulls on here, just can't seem to can't just seem to get the facts straight for some reason. That's how it seems in my opinion. Again, a lot of people just want to believe in that easy doctrine, right? You just got to believe easy, simple nonsense, and then that's going to be enough, to get you to heaven because you just say a couple magic terms and then that's it. Like, I'll give you something sad, to think about. Like, Perry is a good example. Like, he'll bring his children on stream and even take them out when he does his street preaching, right? And he has them convinced that as long as they just say, well, I believe in Jesus, actually has them thinking that they're saved now because they just said a couple things. And again, he's not the only one doing it, to be fair. Like, literally, I remember going to these churches growing up, right? And they had something called the sinner's prayer, right? That you just have to like repeat a couple words after like the pastor. And as long as you say this prayer, you'll be guaranteed to be saved. It's like, no, that's not true. I mean, it's like you do realize that there's been hundreds of millions of people around the world who have done that, said some type of sinner's prayer and believe that they're saved now, right? I mean, clearly that's not true. It's like, you guys really think that you're all going to heaven? It's like, haven't you ever read in the Bible where it talks about 144,000 people being of the elect and then a remnant of people behind them? That's certainly not, a few billion people. That's certainly not a few billion people. Literally on Earth today, there are 2,600,000,000 plus people who confess to be a Christian. Look it up. Again, I'm not making these statistics up. This is easily accessible on Wikipedia and Google to fact check this information, right? So, with that being said, you know, it- it's it's remarkable to me. So people think that all those people are going to heaven, apparently, but it's like, well, didn't Jesus even say that not everybody who calls him Lord is going to get to heaven in Matthew 7? Jay said Perry's a good man. Well, let me say this. When it comes to doctrine, Perry's clearly, going completely off. But I will say this, though. He is a man of his words. Like, if he says he's going to do something, he will do it. I'll give him that, though. A lot of people don't do the same. Like, say, for instance, if Perry says they'll send you $100 if you do a challenge for him or do a study with him, he'll do that. He's a man of his words. I'll give him credit on that. I'm not going to lie on him just because I don't like to do it like somehow how some other people will do, right? Like, they'll make up lies and say, well, Perry abuses his children. It's like, no, I'm not going to go around and say that. Now, again, I think Perry is not a good father, but that doesn't mean that he's abusing his children. I'm not going to lie on the man because, again, I don't know. Right? I don't know that. So I'm not going to just lie on somebody for no reason. I'm not the kind of guy to do that. So again, I'll say Perry definitely doesn't know his Bible, but if he says he's going to give you a T-shirt or give you money, he will do it. I will say that. I have to be fair and say that he is a man of his words. But I'm sure there also are some gang members who are a man of their word as well. Like, there's some mafia members who are a man of their word. If they tell you something, they're going to do it. So again, again, I'll be fair and say Perry's a man of his word, but that doesn't mean he's teaching the Bible correctly, as any reasonable person can see. Let's see. Nick said, Perry Green literally thinks he's the Messiah. He's on video saying he's equal to God. I've seen that before. I think you and David did a stream about that before. I believe I've seen that. Hell, I've never seen a Bible teacher say they are equal to Jesus Christ. I mean, I would think anybody could agree. Well, yeah, that's clearly blasphemous to compare yourself to Jesus Christ. I mean, you didn't go on the cross for the forgiveness of sin. So how the hell could you or I be compared to that man who did that? Now, again, that's a blasphemous statement to say that you're equal with the man who was sent from God to, die on the cross for forgiveness of sin. That's clearly an evil thing to say. Clearly, nobody is equal to what Christ did. That's a lie right there. That's just not true. Now, the word Christian means to be Christ-like, right? So we can be like Christ, but that doesn't mean that you're equal to Christ to what he did. Of course not. But you can be like Christ, right? Meaning what? That, your actions, your lifestyle, how you treat people, it's in the equivalence of what Christ did, right? You're walking after Christ, right? Or in other terms, right? Like, say, for instance, here's a good analogy. Like, Christ is walking on the seashore, and then the Christians are walking in his steps behind him. That's basically what a Christian means, right? You're walking after Christ. You're walking how he walked. It's simple to understand. It's not too difficult. Yeah, LP Nick's there. He's not on stream with me, but he's in the chat down there. Yeah, hey, look, I'll leave that between Nick and Jay. I'm not going to get involved in that down there. Hey, I stated my stance on the situation, and I'll hold that stance. So again, even though I don't like Perry Green, I'm not going to sit there and lie on the man for no reason. Again, the Bible says it's a lie. Excuse me, it's a sin to lie on people, right? To bear false witness against a man would be a sin, right? So even though I don't like somebody, I'm not going to go around and spread, false claims about the person, right? So again, I've never seen, Perry abuse his children. So I'm not going to lie and say he does because I have no evidence of that. Now, hell, it could be true, but it might not be true. So I'm not going to say it. Just like other individuals, like say for instance, I could say that oh, let's see, what's an example I could give? Hell, like say for instance, like somebody might say that Alazar has people at his house in slavery. Somebody might make that accusation against him, but that doesn't make it true just because there's accusations against the man, right? Do I believe he does? No, I don't believe that for many obvious reasons. But somebody can make that accusation against him, but it would be a lie because there's no evidence that that's true, right? Just as a good example to see or give. Galapagos said, Pastor Anderson said he's one of the 24 elders. Yeah, I actually seen that. I know what you're talking about. I've seen him say that on video once before. Here's the thing with Steven Anderson, right? I've watched some of his stuff before. There are things he teaches that are correct, and then of course there are some stuff that he teaches that are clearly wrong. But I do got to give him credit on something though, because like say for instance his stance on rainbows and stuff like that, right? His stance on treating the rainbow people a certain way. He is right on that, right? He is right that he's holding the biblical stance on that, right? Like if he finds out that there's one of them rainbows in his church, he'll literally kick them out forcibly, right? With no ifs, ands, or buts. Whereas other churches, literally in my area, will literally, kiss their ass and, invite them in without any type of problem. Matter of fact, they would be more accepting in some of these churches than they would be of a person wearing a Red Bull hat. Seriously, man. Seriously. Right? If you go to some of these churches in America, if you're gay, you're treated better than if you're just a regular straight person. As weird as that sounds, that's basically what it is. And it's strange that things would be that way. It's pretty strange. And think about this, it's like, who the hell thought that we live to see the day when most churches are fine with pride? It's like, seriously, I never thought that I would in my lifetime see the day that everybody for the most part would be fine with all this nonsense. Like when I was growing up, the churches didn't believe these things, but now all of a sudden everybody just believes it. But again, it's a sign of the times. I'm going to be wrapping up in a couple minutes here. If anybody has any last minute question or subject, you're welcome to put it in now. But in a few minutes, I'm going to be closing up probably at 2 hours. We'll go to 2 hours for my OCD. LP said, I watched Steven Anderson's sermon from 2016. He's basically saying voting doesn't matter and exposes Christians who say you must go vote. He's right on that. Yeah, that's something he's right on, right? He has the smarts to realize that, voting is rigged, right? The voting system is rigged. You know what I find funny? Some people in America will be like, well, yeah, the Russian election is all rigged and all that, which is, it is right. It is rigged. but then they'll pretend like the American selection is not rigged itself. Like that's pretty funny, right? Like, oh, like Vladimir Putin's election, that's all rigged and staged. But then Trump and all that, oh, it's a real election and all our votes count. It's like, really? I mean, come on, it can't be serious. But again, it's a good example of the ignorance of the average person. It's a clear example of, gullible, willful ignorance at its finest. Let's see. Yo, try to keep it chill in the comments, guys. I mean, come on. Keep it chill down there, you two. There's no reason for, you know, no reason to get out of hand. Let me see. I'm just checking the comments real quick just to see, make sure I didn't miss too much. They're going by quick earlier. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right, Jay. But yeah, it's yeah, I touched on a couple subjects that I wanted to talk about. I had on my mind for the last couple of days. I wanted to, talk about a couple of those theories that I've heard people talk about. I had to laugh at them. It's like, you know, I can see why some people might believe in certain of these things. Specifically speaking of David Weiss here, and some of his nonsense. But, once you start looking into some of these things, you find out that it's just like a cash grab is what some of these guys are doing, right? They're trying to sell you like some type of like book they have or some type of like t-shirt or, DVD set. That's what it is with a lot of these people, right? So David, oh, in David Weiss's case, right, he's trying to sell his clock app that he has, right? Flat Earth, Sun Clock, and Zodiac app, whatever the hell that's called, right? What is it? Like $3, and then you got to pay like a damn subscription each month. But a lot of these guys, it's a cash grab. Whereas me over here, I have never made a penny off of anything that I put on the internet. I've been putting out, information, for years on this platform, and I've never made a single dime. I had people offer to give donations, but I didn't accept them at the time, right? So here it is, got dudes out there supposedly teaching the truth, making thousands of thousands a month. Meanwhile, I'm sitting over here, giving you the controversial truths, and I'm not making a damn penny. So, it shows, who's the real person, right? Who's like the person actually doing it for the people, and actually giving out the information, not for their own benefit. Yeah, it's already 2 hours and like 2 minutes here. Didn't think I've been on here that long today. Yeah, LOP, isn't it nighttime where you're at, man? think LOP is over in like Europe or something, right? I know Jay's over in California, Nick's over in Canada, so they're not too far off. Oh, LP said it's 9:20 p.m. right now there. Oh, that's ironic. It's 3:20 p.m. over here, man. So yeah, you're a handful of hours ahead of us. Galapagos said, "I wish I had the video of Flat Earth Boxer and Steven Anderson and his whole church arguing in a parking lot." Yeah, yeah, that'd be funny, man. Yeah, whatever happened to that douchebag, Boxer? Call that dude Flat Earth hoaxer. That dude's a damn con artist, scumbag, man. I wonder whatever happened to that cat. Was that cat that got locked up in that asylum for doing stupid shit? Oh man. Yeah, yeah, man. One of y'all should have put that on a different platform so it wouldn't get, taken down or striked. Let me see. Um, all right. Well, I think I'm gonna call that the stream now. For today, we have passed the 2 hour mark. If anybody made it to the end, put hashtag LOP. We'll give him a little shout out. If anybody made it to the end, put hashtag LOP in the comment section. But I'm gonna call that the stream.